let's go. Like, good to see you, bro. Like, dang, like, we haven't seen you a bit. How come you came today? And he and he was just stone faced, and he was like, I just came by to say bye to some of you bums who are gonna get traded tomorrow. And then he sits down at the table with the score, where you control the scoreboard at the practice facility, and he said a couple words to the coach, and then he left. And then I remember one of my teammates was just like, I lost all motivation to practice.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of This Week in Sports. It is Friday, May 15th, 2020. I'm your host, as always, The Pody, and we've got a lot to talk about today. I contemplated, what segments and what stories we're going to make it into today's episode. Again, we like to keep this about an hour or so. Now that we're in quarantine, there's really not much going on. And so, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know not too many of you have been listening. It's tough to listen to podcasts when you're stuck at home. A lot of people like to listen when they're on the road, driving around, in the car, to from work or during work, things of that nature. So, it's been tough. I will say that. It's been tough even motivating myself to produce this podcast on a weekly basis, okay? Because I'm a one-man show for the most part. I do all the recording, the producing, the mixing, all of it. That's done by me. I put together a list of notes, if you will, stories that I'm going to talk about, and I go from there. So without further ado, let's jump right in because my parents are away and I've got to cook dinner in about an hour or so. So let's jump right in, and we'll start with a recap of UFC 249, which proved to be a slam dunk home run, whatever analogy you want to use. Okay, Dana White finally, after a couple hiccups here and there, canceling it a few times, they were able to make it work. It took place in Jacksonville, Florida, UFC 249. The main fight being between Tony Ferguson and Gaethje, Justin Gaethje. And it was an epic fight. Okay, it really was. It was the interim lightweight title fight, and I've got to say, Gaethje did not disappoint. I mean, first round, it was back and forth. It was anybody's round. And, of course, Ferguson is the favorite going into this fight, and it was just a battle till the end. Gaethje, the thing with Gaethje, which caught me by surprise, is he was trying to lay haymakers. He was going all out. He was putting all his energy into his swings. I mean, he was flying high and fast, and I thought to myself, okay, he's winning early, but there's no way he's going to be able to sustain this. And unbelievably, the man had no stop, no quit in him, and he just kept going, and he was laying heavy hits back and forth. Ferguson didn't know what hit him, honestly. The fact that he managed to stay alive in the ring for as long as he did is remarkable, because he is not human. Most human beings, and as the announcers even said it, they would have been down by like round 2 or 3. But somehow Ferguson managed to last about 5.5 rounds because it got called, in the middle of the 5th round, I believe it was. But wow, just relentless. And in his own words after the fight, Gaethje even said that he went into that ring prepared to die. These fighters, this is a different breed of people and human beings that we're witnessing. I mean, it takes a sick-minded individual to get in that ring, especially boxing too, but especially MMA and the UFC, because with the kicking and the fact that you could use your feet, it's just it's a blood sport. And I sort of am starting to get why so many people navigate towards it. I watched it because obviously it's the only sporting event that's been on in months. But man, it was fun to watch. That was not the only fight of the night. Okay. But in the end, Ferguson, man, like I said, the fact that he was able to last as long as he did was remarkable in itself. We found out later from Dana White that he actually suffered an orbital fracture, and I saw a video circulating social media of Ferguson in the hospital a couple days ago because he had to go to the hospital after the fight. No joke, he got messed up. He was literally dancing around the hospital with the IV stand that he was able to walk around with. He was dancing, and his face was battered and beaten. And it's like, this guy is sick in the head. And it's all these UFC guys. You have to psych yourself up. You have to be a serious type of individual to get in that octagon and to fight. And just kudos to those guys. I mean, nobody's a loser in that one. Just unreal. But yeah, so we'll see what's up next for Gagey. Maybe Khabib, who was supposed to fight in this one, who I think we just found out. I think I read earlier today that Khabib's father is hospitalized in a coma right now. Don't know if that's corona related or not. But interesting nonetheless. And then Conor McGregor was coming out, I guess had some words for Gagey, and then Gagey said, stop, you're losing respect or whatever. So, yeah, crazy. The second fight that we got was Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz, and that was a great bout as well, okay, because Cejudo goes in as the favorite against Cruz, okay, and it's in the second round. Right at the end of the second round, final 30 seconds, Cejudo develops this gushing cut above his on his forehead, just under his hairline. They have to pause the fight for just a second to wipe the blood because it's dripping everywhere. It's not a concern that he's going to be, that they're going to stop the fight and he's going to lose. So they clean it up real quick. There's about 22 seconds left in round 2. And Cruz goes in for a couple punches and he misses and he ducks down. And that's when Cejudo grabs him with the knee to the face and just takes Dominic Cruz to the ground, and that's when you smell blood in the water, and these fighters jump and they pounce, and Cejudo got on top, and he just started wailing on him with the side punches and everything else, and that's when the ref decided to stop the fight. It's over. Henry Cejudo is the winner of the fight. Dominic Cruz, however, was visibly upset. He wasn't knocked out. He claims he was standing up, and he was on his feet on his way up when the fight was stopped. He's like, how can I be out of the fight and knocked out or disoriented if I'm starting to stand up, which I sort of understand. And there was a little thought there that from the the announcers, Joe Rogan and DC and all those guys, that maybe that it was a little surprising that they stopped the fight early. There's some backlash from Cruz's camp, though, that apparently maybe the referee, I forget his name, smelled like cigarettes and alcohol, and maybe he wasn't all there when he called the fight. I doubt it. You're not going to be able to protest that one and get away with it. But yeah, so Cejudo gets the win. He had this to say afterwards.
I actually kind of want to make an announcement, man. Uncle Dana, UFC, everybody, thank you so much. Hunter Campbell, all the UFC staff. Joe, I'm happy with my career. I've done enough in the sport. I want to walk away. I want to enjoy myself. I'm 33 years old. I have a girl now, Amanda, who's watching back home. I eventually want to start a family. Since I was 11 years old, I sacrificed my whole life to get where I'm at today. I'm not going to let nobody take that from me. So I'm retiring tonight, Joe. I'm 33 years old. I'm happy with my career. Again, Uncle Dane, I want to say thank you for everything. You're the man. Everybody here, Heidi, everybody, thank you so much, man. I'm Triple C's out. You guys don't have to hear my ass no more.
Well, thank you, sir. It's been an honor to call your fights. Henry
you.
Cejudo, ladies and gentlemen.
So yeah, there you have it. Cejudo, he wins the bantamweight title and abruptly retires at the age of 33, I think he said. So yeah, good for him. There was a couple of other fights. In the quickest fight of the evening, we saw Francis Ngannou knock out Jair Zeno Rosenstruck in about 20 seconds. It was a flash. If you blinked, you missed it. I mean, these guys are absolute animals. I will continue to say it. You couldn't pay me $1 million to get in the ring with these guys.
Early inside leg kick is there for Biggie Boy. Oh!
It's over.
Rosenstruck is out. Ngannou
Out bad. Out cold.
Holy smokes.
So Francis Ngannou with his fourth consecutive vicious first round knockout.
Cow.
you could hear it in their voices. And he said that guy made a mistake, Rosenstrike, by calling him out and wanting this fight. Just devastating. I mean, it's like Michael Jordan. When you give him any reason to come after you, you slight him in any way, shape, or form, they will make you pay. And Ngannou, the experienced guy here, he made this dude pay big time. Knocked him out completely. Okay, we also saw in the other couple of fights, we saw former NFL player Greg Hardy. Okay, he defeated Yorgan De Castro, and then Calvin Kattar was the winner in his bout over Jeremy Stevens. Interesting, take a listen to this clip from Greg Hardy. It's very interesting, okay, because there was no fans in attendance here. So take a listen to what he had to say to Joe Rogan after his win.
All right, I'm here with the winner, Greg Hardy. Greg, you made some adjustments, some big adjustments. Seems like early on in the fight, he was catching you with a lot of those heavy leg kicks. How much did that affect your movement?
Big time, man. And thank God for not having the crowd. Shout out to DC. I heard him tell me to check. I need to figure out how to check it. So I started trying to check him, and game changer.
You have had a wild ride. In 2 years, you've gone from a guy who has his first MMA fight to a guy who's fighting guys like Volkov, who's a world champion in other divisions. What has this been like for you, and how do you feel about this victory?
Like going to Disney World, man. It's been a roller coaster like none other, baby. Only next appropriate stop is the Joe Rogan Show.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you, sir. Look forward to seeing you again. Greg Hardy, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so a guy that had his troubles in the NFL, and now he's in the UFC, changed careers, and he's making it work. I think he's something like 6-2 so far in his young career in the MMA. Another big dude that can just fight. And you heard him say, that was what I thought was very interesting. The fact that there's no fans in attendance, he could hear Daniel Cormier, who he refers to as DC, talking about the adjustments he needs to make. And so he heard that, and he's like, okay, well, now I know what to do now. And he flipped the switch, and he made the adjustments, and boom, like he said, game changer. So congrats to him. And overall, it was a successful night for the UFC on Saturday. There was some hiccups. There was a couple of fighters and their cornermen that tested positive, so those fights had to be canceled. But there was this came out, I think, yesterday maybe. New York Times apparently got their grasp on a health and safety plan that was supposed to be taken very seriously by the UFC, that they said was not, they did not follow those guidelines properly, and mainly that revolved around Joe Rogan and his ringside interviews. He claimed that he wanted to get in the ring, talk to them one-on-one, shake their hands like he always does. His belief was that everybody was tested, so there should be no issue. Dana White also did not wear a face mask. It was weird because some people were wearing face masks, some weren't. But, there's a quick clip from ESPN of Joe Rogan really just explaining the whole situation and them going over exactly what was supposed to happen versus why Joe Rogan decided to do it the way he did it, and vice versa. So I thought it was interesting, and I'll give my take on it right after.
Joe, all week the understanding was that you would do interviews from an isolated area, or the fighters would be given sanitized headsets and you'd do them remotely. You did them in the ring. Explain that decision.
Well, it didn't make any sense to me if everybody's been tested and everybody's clean. No one has the disease. I've been tested. They've been tested. I want to see them. When I'm doing an interview with a fighter after a spectacular performance like Justin Gaethje's fight, I want to look at him in the eye. I don't want it to be some impersonal thing where he's 100 feet away from me.
Honestly, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The fact that everybody's been tested, they took precise, accurate precautions, tested everybody involved, okay? That's why a couple people that tested positive, they were asymptomatic, but they could not fight or be there. Joe Rogan tested, he was negative. The fighters were negative. Why wear a mask in that situation? And then conversely, why not just interview? Like, why bring in the technicality of it, or the technology where there could be issues, or doing it remotely? It just really doesn't make sense. He does it every single time in the ring. Those are what people look forward to, is those interviews with the winners and the losers after each fight. And so, I totally agree with him. Everybody was tested. Nobody that, was positive in that arena. So it made no point in trying to do it remotely or sanitized headsets and all of that. So, yeah, that was just an interesting bit on it. New York Times trying to throw some shade like they always do, I guess. Okay, so that'll do it for the UFC. We'll move right along and we'll talk a little NFL. Many of you, I just found this out today, but many of you around the world and around the country by now have heard about the Ahmaud Arbery incident. Really, I shouldn't call it an incident. It was a young black man, 25 years old. He was on, I believe, his morning run or his morning jog in the city of Brunswick, Georgia, which is funny because I actually live in North Brunswick. So I live in a Brunswick. And he was on his morning jog. I don't have too many details, so forgive me, but I just know that it was a case of a former police officer, a white cop or whatever, maybe retired, I'm not too sure, and his son. They basically, I guess, chased this guy down, and they basically just gunned him down and killed him. Again, I don't really have all the details, so forgive me for that. I probably should have done that. But it's made huge national headlines throughout this country, and there's actually some big ties to the NFL with this case, which I had no idea. The two father and son, they were arrested and they're being charged and all of that, but it's still a developing story and there's still a lot of details. I'm sure this is going to be going on for months, if not a year or so, as this all unfolds. There was apparently some video footage. I have not yet gotten my hands on that or looked at it, but the link to the NFL would be Lions safety Tracy Walker, who was actually second cousins with Ahmaud Arbery, and it is a sad story because they both grew up in Brunswick, Georgia. From the time they were little kids, they lived across the street. They played high school football together at Brunswick High. They would constantly come over each other's house after school when they were younger to play Nazi zombies and Call of Duty. And it's a really sad thing. Tracy Walker is a safety with the Lions, and last year you might not really know his name outside if you're a Lions fan, or maybe the NFC North, but he worked his way up and he became a starter last season. And I want to say he himself is 24 or 25. There was a year separation between them. Ahmaud Arbery was a year older than Tracy Walker, but just they were second cousins, but they were much more like brothers. And the last time they saw each other was actually a couple months ago, back in early February, when Tracy came home for his birthday and for the Super Bowl. They actually got together, they hung out, he bought his cousin a drink, and Ahmaud actually said to him that he was proud of his cousin, but he told him to keep working hard. And that was a month before he was killed, and who would have thought that would be the last time he ever saw his cousin? But he said he's going to take that memory, that last conversation that the two of them had, and it's going to be something that he will hold on to as he mourns his cousin's tragic and untimely death. Okay, they were very close, and it's just a shame, and I hope justice is served in this case, but just very sad story. And again, like I said, it's still sort of developing. We're going to start to learn a lot more, but I can't even imagine what he's going through. So, yeah. I'm rooting for you, Tracy, and I hope you well, and I hope you can get through this tough time. Okay, on a much happier note, Jets first round draft pick Mekhi Becton, number 11 overall pick, the monstrous 6'7", 365 or 64 pound offensive lineman. Hopefully he could be Sam Darnold's blindside blocker for the next decade. He did something that is so cool, okay? And I wish a lot more guys do it, and they probably do. Maybe it doesn't get publicized enough, but I don't know if it was a PR stunt. It didn't seem like it, but it's just a guy doing something so amazing and so cool for sick children. So what he did was he got on FaceTime with a nurse at the Goryeb Children's Hospital in Morristown, New Jersey. I don't live too far from there, but I've never even heard of it, to be truthful. So he hops on FaceTime, and they went room to room, and he started FaceTiming with a couple of the sick kids, the couple of the patients in the hospital. They talked about everything from the kids bringing up how he ran a 5'1" at his size to him pushing a truck. One kid even joked with him that he can't wait to see him pancake linebackers, and they were laughing about that. Then another kid said that he thinks he could push 2 trucks, and then Mekhi said that they're going to, when the kid is healthy, they're going to have a truck pushing contest. But ultimately, the best part about all of this was Mekhi Becton. He extended an olive branch to each and every single one of those kids, and he said when they're healthy enough, he wants to invite them to a New York Jets football game, to have them come with their family and watch the game in person. And I think that is just awesome and just a really cool gesture. I don't know a lot about Mekhi Becton, being that he went to Louisville, but that is just something that you wish you see more of in the world today. So kudos to you, Mekhi Becton. Okay, the Rams, in other news, they unveiled 3 new jerseys on Wednesday, and the reception, I've got to say, was a bit underwhelming. There's been about 5 or 6 teams that unveiled new jerseys so far this season, and they've all been kind of meh, but maybe like one of them was okay. The Browns jersey, you know how I felt about that, just awful. But here's the recap, because visually you're listening to me, you can't see it, so I will give you the lowdown as per something I read on ESPN. Okay, the look I'll try to give you a visual of it, right? The look includes a blue jersey featuring yellow gradient numbering. So from my understanding, the gradient is like a yellow mixed with like an off-white type of thing. So it's like a 2-tone yellow for the jersey number, with interchangeable blue or yellow pants. There is also an off-white jersey and pant combination. I really didn't like that. The Rams' new helmet is a metallic chrome blue with a gradient yellow horn and blue face mask. Probably the best part of the whole thing. The Rams' jersey colors are officially Rams Royal Soul and Bone, that's off-white to the untrained eye. So if you could somehow visualize that, great. If not, you could go and check that out on social media. But overall, it was not great, in my opinion. But it's trying to emulate that Southern Cal feel, if you will, as they move into the new SoFi Stadium, which is supposed to be ready by August. They're burning through money right now, I just read. It is going to cost about $5 billion with a B. That's right. That was not a mispronunciation. I said $5 billion. Okay. That is going to be the most expensive stadium in NFL history, you would think, right? And it is not going to be ready by August, if I had to guess, because with coronavirus, it's delaying things. They're blowing through cash. They're trying to get more money, and it's just a disaster, but we'll see what happens with that. Okay, and some more troubling news. I wish I was surprised, but it's sports. I'm never surprised with the idiocy and the stupidity that is professional athletes, right? They're not the smartest bunch. Okay, here's the lowdown. Here's the story. This came out yesterday. 2 cornerbacks in the NFL are facing multiple charges after an incident at a party on Wednesday night. You have to understand, and if I was a general manager or a coach in the NFL or any sport, I would be scared shitless, excuse my language. Whenever there is off time, an off season, or downtime in the sport, these guys don't know what to do with their time, and they always find themselves in trouble. For instance, you get guys that get DUIs left and right. If I played a professional sport and I had millions of dollars, why in the hell would I be getting a DUI ever? I could go out and party all I want. Why would you get in a car and drive it yourself? That's what peasants do. That's what normal people like me and you do. When I have millions of dollars, or when these players have millions of dollars, you should be having a driver everywhere you go. You should at least be getting in Ubers, okay, left and right. There's no need to drive yourself. You want to buy cool cars and store them in your garage like Jay Leno? That's fine. You want to drive them on a weekend by yourself, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever? Great. Drive it to the grocery store, whatever. But there's no reason that when you go out at night or go to a party or you're drinking that you should get in a car, get behind a wheel. No, it's irresponsible. It's stupid. All of that stuff, right? It's common sense stuff that you're taught when you're in high school. And these guys, I don't understand why they always get into trouble. And it's not just with the drinking or the drugs or anything like that, right? back to the story. Here's the lowdown. It's it's extremely severe. The two cornerbacks in question would be Giants corner DeAndre Baker and Seahawks corner Quinton Dunbar. They are each facing 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm. DeAndre Baker is facing an additional 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm. The two allegedly started robbing guests at a party in Miramar, Florida, per report. So a bunch of people were at this party, barbecuing in a backyard. Something happened. All hell breaks loose. Baker, because these athletes, they're so tough, they're so manly and tough that they got to carry guns with them because they don't know how to just get in a fist fight like a normal person or walk away because they have so much to lose. They don't realize that. He pulls out a semi-automatic gun and he starts telling Quinton Dunbar to start robbing these people or whatever, right? They take watches, they take loads of cash because, of course, you're in a backyard with a couple of NFL players. I'm sure there's thousands upon thousands of dollars in cash. They probably, who knows if they were playing cards or poker, gambling, whatever, right? Drinking a bit. What's scary is that allegedly DeAndre Baker orders somebody in a mask to go inside and shoot another person. Again, this story more so than the Ahmaud Arbery death, murder, whatever you want to call it, right? Homicide. This one is much more in the present. The details are flowing in. I saw the arrest warrant. It was like 8 to 10 pages or so, maybe more. I didn't read through all of it, but it is serious. I'm sure by now they've been arrested or turned themselves in or whatever. But these guys, I mean, they're going to prison for years. This is no small feat. This is something super serious. I mean, just aggravated assault with a firearm, just crazy stuff. Both teams did release statements acknowledging the situation, but again, they don't want to comment too much because they don't really know what's going on just yet. But these guys are done. They are absolutely done. These teams will cut ties. What's crazy about this is, I just found out today, DeAndre Baker was a first-round pick by the New York Giants, and they got that first-round pick with, guess what? The Odell Beckham trade. So if this doesn't make Dave Gettleman look even worse, because I want to dive back into this man's history, go back to his college and his high school days. Was he ever in trouble with the law? Were there red flags with this kid? First round picks, usually they don't get drafted in the first round if they have a meek or blurry history, but I'm sure if you dig deep enough and go back far enough, you could vet this kid to a point where there's some red flags. And so it just makes Dave Gettleman look real bad because they got they picked up in that trade for OBJ, they got Jabril Peppers, a local kid who had a gun that was his, that was like stolen and used to commit a murder as well. And now you have this with DeAndre Baker. So it just looks like the Giants look really bad. It looks like Dave Gettleman doesn't know what he's doing. As for Dunbar, he's a little bit older. Baker, going back real quick, he was a rookie last year, taken in the first round. Dunbar, a little bit older, 27 years old, played in 11 games last year for the Redskins before being traded to Seattle in March for a 5th-round pick right before the NFL draft. So the Seahawks just got this guy, and now they're probably going to have to cut bait. He had 1 year left on his deal. Just unbelievable. What could these kids be thinking? You know what I'm saying? It's just unbelievable. All right, next is another story that made huge headlines yesterday, and it was when James Harrison, former linebacker with the Steelers, famously had that pick 6 against the Cardinals in the Super Bowl, right? Starts a media frenzy yesterday when he goes on the Barstool Sports podcast, Going Deep with Willie Colon and Stephen Chia. And they were talking about how much he's been fined for hits over his career, and this is what he had to say. It's a 2-parter, so just bear with me.
Wow. The most you've ever been fined in one game?
One game was 75.
Ooh, is that the Master Quad hit?
Listen, on everything I love, on my daddy's grave, I hit that man with about max 50% of what I had, and I just hit him because I wanted him to let loose of the ball. If I had knew they was going to fine me $75,000, I would have tried to kill him. Dude, I'm telling you.
And then he goes, this is the kicker. This is the part that you really got to listen to, because this is the part that has made waves today.
The G'est thing Mike Tomlin ever did, he handed me an envelope after that. I ain't gonna say what, but he handed me an envelope after that.
Okay. What he means by that is he handed me an envelope. You get fined $75,000 for that hit that almost killed the guy, right? Gave him a concussion, all that. That envelope, ladies and gentlemen, was not him handing him a letter. No. That was cash money, okay? So the moolah, if you will. He said, I'm not going to say anything else about it, meaning he's not going to divulge how much money he gave him. Now. This stirred up talk about Bountygate with the Saints in 2011, and it got Sean Payton riled up today and talking, and then James Harrison went off again because he said, oh, this was not a Bountygate type thing. I was not paid by Mike Tomlin or any of that stuff. I'm going to pull that post up that he put on Instagram, but I just want you guys to know the dedication that I have. I had to scour that entire hour and 45, hour 50, whatever it was, podcast, scrub through it to find those comments and record those for you guys to listen to. So, take it for what it is. So the comments James Harrison made were, and Pat McAfee actually talked about it on his podcast today. I saw a clip of him saying that you don't hand somebody an envelope if you're giving them a couple hundred. That's at least $5,000. So, yeah, very interesting. There's always been these unwritten rules in sports. I'm sure that's one of them. Pat alluded to he would pay guys $100 or $1,000 if they down the ball inside the 20-yard line, or he'd give a guy $1,000 if he downs it at the 1, and he'd be like, all right, guys, if you go and you down this inside the 20, I'll give you $500. And then he'd go out there and he'd kick and he'd kick off and it would be a touchback, and he would laugh about it, but he was told he couldn't do that anymore after Bountygate. It wasn't like he's going out there and telling guys to go break a guy's leg or go after their ACL or anything like that. But this is intriguing because it brings about James Harrison getting paid by his coach for a hit. Okay, so he went absolutely off, James Harrison, and he had this to say. Let me read this, okay? He said, wow, y'all really comparing what I said to Bountygate? Mike Tomlin has never paid me for hurting someone or trying to hurt someone or put a bounty on anybody. If you knew the full story of what happened back then, you'd know that BS fine for a legal play wasn't even penalized during the game. The league was getting pressure because the first concussion lawsuits were starting, and they had to look like they cared about player safety all of a sudden. Before that, they had been selling a photo of that same play for $55 on the NFL website with other videos of the NFL's greatest hits that had to start with other videos of the NFL's greatest hits that had to with other videos of the NFL's greatest hits that the league profited on back then. Sorry for that. When the league had to start pretending like they cared about player safety, they took all of those things down off their website and they started fining guys ridiculous amounts for the same plays they used to profit off of. Everybody knew it, even these same media people and all the fans that were sending money to me and the team to cover the fine. Again, at no time did Mike T ever suggest anybody hurt anybody or that they'd be rewarded for anything like that. And then he says, get out of here with that BS. Hashtag receipts. Okay, James Harrison, ball's back in your court. If you didn't get paid for the hit, then what was in the envelope, okay? It wasn't lollipops or a gift card to a massage or a spa day. So please come forward now and tell us what the hell was in the envelope, because we're all dying to know. Because I'm calling BS on the fact that he didn't pay you. I'm not saying he paid you for the hit specifically, like you were told to go out and do that. I'm sure he just came to you and was like, all right, you're probably going to get fined for this hit. I just got word. Here's some money to cover some of it or whatever, because I feel bad type of thing. Which I don't even know why he would do that. But again, I never played football. I don't know these unwritten rules. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, that stirred up a whole lot of media frenzy. Everybody's going nuts over that. James Harrison posted screenshots to several different websites running with that story. So yeah, let's see him if he can explain this one now. Okay, that does it for the NFL. Let's move right along, talk NBA. There's really nothing much going on there so far. I will say this, ESPN on Wednesday or Thursday, they put out a list of the top NBA players. I think it was like the top 74 NBA players of all time. They went with thousands of head-to-head matchups. They had a bunch of ESPN analysts and people working for ESPN that participated in this, and they came up with a top 10 players of all time. And here's the list. Coming in at number 10, Shaquille O'Neal. Number 9, Kobe Bryant. Number 8, Tim Duncan. 3 players that I grew up watching in my youth. Okay. Then number 7, you have Larry Bird. Number 6, Wilt Chamberlain. Number 5, Magic Johnson. Number 4, Bill Russell. Number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 2, LeBron James. And of course, number 1, Michael Jordan. All right. This is where I have an issue with this list. Overall, the list isn't bad. The issue I have with this list is LeBron James being on it at number 2. Maybe shouldn't even be on it at all. And before you say, WTF, are you out of your flipping mind? Here's what I will say about this. I'm not discounting LBJ's greatness by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't really think it's fair to put a player on this list that is still currently playing and whose career isn't over. Okay? Because if you want to argue that he's better than MJ or whatever, okay, that's up for debate. You could debate that when his career's over. So for me, I would put Kareem at number 2, and then I don't really know how I would change up the rest of this, but I just don't know that LeBron should be on it. Not because I don't think he's a good player or he deserves to be on this list. I just think it's unfair to put him on here while he's still playing, because somebody like a Steph Curry, who many argue is the greatest shooter of all time, he's still in the prime of his career. By the time his career is over, he very well could be on this list, supplanting a Shaquille O'Neal or somebody like that, right? And I also think it's unfair that Kobe is at number 9. I kind of would put him lower. Again, I didn't get to watch Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't see Magic Johnson or Bill Russell play. Bill Russell really is on this list because the man won 11 championships in 12 or 13 years of his career. I mean, it's just magnificent and just incredibly insane to think that he was able to win that many championships. But anytime you put out a list like this, there's going to be controversy because it's an opinion-based list. Okay, everybody has their difference of opinion on who's better than who's number 1, who's this, who's that. So, yeah, they put out that list. All right, so, that was a bit controversial. Next up, the NBA, effective today, pay cuts are starting. What that means is they will begin withholding salary from player paychecks starting today. This is a part of the agreed-upon deal by the NBA and the NBA Players Association, NBA Players Association. Players will have a 25% pay cut in compliance with the CBA. The CBA has a force majeure clause, so it's in compliance with that. The cuts apply to every player. However, there are 6 players, 6 of the game's 10 highest earners, that have already been paid, and they will not see pay cuts immediately due to the COVID-19 crisis. That's why these pay cuts are happening. They will have to pay back those reductions once they get their advances for the 2020-2021 season. A lot to dissect there a little bit. It's tough. I'm not a math guy or anything, but these 6 players include LeBron James, Steph Curry, John Wall, Blake Griffin, Kevin Durant, and Paul George. If the entire season does get canceled, players could stand to lose upwards of $1 billion in combined salary. This is a big-time crisis. It's why Major League Baseball is trying so heavily, good segue here, but is trying so hard to resume the season and salvage a season at all, because the clubs could stand to lose up to $4 billion. It's absolutely insane. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about that. Earlier this week on Tuesday, the Major League Baseball owners approved a proposal that aims to have Major League Baseball back in early July. Money is, of course, at the heart of this. Owners are fearful of deep financial losses with fan-free stadiums. They did, however, agree in a conference call Monday afternoon to a plan that includes a 50-50 revenue split with the players. Okay? Now, according to Mark Teixeira, former Yankee first baseman, this is a very, very fair deal, and he would take this deal if he was still currently a player.
Both sides are going to have to give something if it's just going to be the money that's going to get this thing done. And a lot of times when you see these proposals come out, both sides put something out there publicly so they can pull it back and say, okay, this is what we gave back in order to get this thing done. So what would it take?
Well, listen, from a player standpoint, I want 100% of my salary for every game played, but unfortunately, these are unprecedented times, and the owner's 50-50 split is not unreasonable. If you really think about where the finances of baseball have gone, the players are actually getting less than 50% of the revenue in the sport in a regular season. If we didn't have a pandemic this year and played 162 games, the players would have actually gotten less than 50%. So the owners themselves, they're making the best offer that they can make, and I think it's a very reasonable offer. And I think players need to understand just this one time in the history of the union since Curt Flood, they can bend a little bit and say, you know what, we're going to do what's best for the sport, what's best for the country. There's people out there that are risking their lives on the front lines. There are people that are losing their jobs, losing their savings. And we know this might not be a great deal for us, but it's better than sitting home and not playing baseball at all.
So ultimately, you think it gets done with that?
Ultimately, this is the thing. Ultimately, do I think that the players would show up at 50-50? Yes. Do I think that the logistics of actually putting on a baseball season and everything that goes into it because this pandemic is going to happen? I don't think so. I just don't know that we can get there between the money and the logistics and everybody feeling good about this. We're definitely not there yet.
So very interesting. Easy for him to say that now that he's not a player, but I do agree because there are people that are on the front lines, your police officers, your first responders, your firefighters, your nurses. Do you think they have a choice on whether or not they go to work? No. They have to go to work right now. They are emergency personnel. They are first responders. They are essential. And what that means is they don't have a choice. Now, baseball players are saying, oh no, we have a choice. Okay, we're not going to play if you don't pay us all of our money. And I think that's absolutely selfish and disgraceful in a way. And Blake Snell, of all players in Major League Baseball, sounded off on this proposal and said he was on a Twitch stream. For those of you that don't know, a lot of these players have been streaming themselves playing video games to engage with fans and to stay busy. So he was on a stream on his computer playing a game, and he was talking about this, and he said absolutely not. He would not take a 50% pay cut. He's owed $7 million this season, and he's saying that I'm not playing if you don't pay me $7 million. So the underlying intricacies of this proposed plan, besides really the money, is that because Major League Baseball is the lone uncapped team sport in the U.S., never has a straight revenue split been part of the game's finances. So you could see the owners are compromising. The MLBPA is almost certain to reject the element of the proposal and counter that a March agreement between the parties guaranteed players a prorated portion of their salaries depending on the number of games played. Now, Executive Director Tony Clark, he told The Athletic that a system that restricts player pay based on revenue is a salary cap, period. So you could tell already that the players are not going for this, and this is going to be back to the square one, back to the negotiating table. Some other vital points in this proposal include an expansion of playoff teams from 10 to 14, an 82-game season, the use of home stadiums in areas that have local and state government approval, a so-called spring training 2.0 that begins in June with a season set for early July. I'm hearing somewhere around July 4th weekend, possibly. And then they are going to move to a universal DH for this season. Okay, I know there's been talks of that for future, but as of right now, no plan beyond this season. Just this season, universal DH. Geographical schedules in which teams play only in-division opponents and interleague opponents in a similar area. So, for example, you'd have the AL Central playing the AL Central, and they would also be playing NL Central teams. A 30-man roster with a taxi squad that would have upward of 50 players available. Okay, you heard what Mark Teixeira had to say about this proposal. Here's what Blake Snell had to say about it.
I'm not splitting no revenue. I want all mine. Bro, y'all gotta understand too, because y'all gonna be like, bro, Blake, play for the love of the game, man. What's wrong with you, bro? Money should not be a thing. Bro, I'm risking my life. What do you mean it should not be a thing? It 100% should be a thing. If I'm gonna play, I should be getting the money I signed to be getting paid. I should not be getting half of what I'm getting paid because the season's cut in half, on top of a 33% cut of the half that's already there. So I'm really getting like 25%. On top of that, it's getting taxed. So imagine how much I'm actually making to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't making shit. And on top of that, so all that money's gone. And now I play risking my life. And if I get the Rona, on top of that, if I get the Rona, guess what happens with that? Oh yeah, that's in my body forever. That damage is not going to be like, the damage that was done to my body, that's going to be there forever. So now I got to play with that on top of that. So y'all got to understand, man, for me to take a pay cut is not happening because the risk is through the roof. It's a shorter season, less pay. Like, bro, yeah, man, I got to get my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine. Okay, and that's just the way it is for me. Like, I'm sorry if you guys think differently, but the risk is way the hell higher and the amount of money I'm making is way lower. Why would I think about doing that? Like, I'm sorry. So in my head, I'm preparing for next season, and I'm actually preparing for right now, but as if I'm preparing for next season. Like, it's super weird, man. More Twitch streams for us, that's facts. But guys, I'm just saying, man, it just doesn't make sense for me to lose all of that money and then go play and then be on lockdown, not around my family, not around the people I love, and get paid way the hell less, and then the risk of injury runs every time I step on the field. So it's not worth it. It's not. I love baseball to death. It's just not worth it.
So let me real quick say one thing, and then I'm going to play Stephen A's reaction to this in a second after. Blake Snell is a former Cy Young Award-winning pitcher. He was on my fantasy team the last 2 years in a row. Great the first year. Last year, this man's talking about going on the field and risking injury every time. He broke his friggin' toe getting out the shower last year and was a shell of himself, okay? So don't talk to me about risking injury. And so let me get this straight, too. He's talking about the risk of, I didn't realize, first of all, that he's a doctor, so you get the Rona and it stays with you your whole life. Where's the science-backed research behind that comment? I don't know that that's true. I'm not a doctor either. I'm not going to speculate, but last I checked, a lot of people like Kevin Durant, asymptomatic, got this virus. They're doing just fine. They have no underlying future health risks as far as I'm concerned, okay? So that's number one. And then number two, he's saying the risk is too much and that he's not willing to take a pay cut. Well, let me tell you, Blake Snell, there's people out there that have lost their jobs and can't put food on the table. Your pay cut, your pennies on the dollar is still millions of dollars, okay? So don't talk to me about you still got to get yours. You've been had yours, okay? You're a professional athlete. It comes with the territory. And if the risk is too high and you're too scared of getting the coronavirus and you don't want to play this season, then why are you saying that you're willing to play for your full salary? So obviously, there's a price to what you're willing to do, which is sad, because that means that for any amount of money, you'd be willing to do anything for that, for to get paid your full salary, which to me makes zero sense. It shows his lack of empathy for the rest of the world. It shows that maybe he's been playing too much video games, too much MLB The Show. The funny thing is, Bryce Harper, who got paid a $300 million contract not too long ago, $320-something million, agreed with him and said that I love Blake Snell. He's one of the best. I got nothing but love for him, and I totally agree. Bro, what are you saying? You're going to get paid hundreds of millions of dollars, Bryce Harper. You're not willing to take... So okay, sit at home, don't play this season, and then get paid zero. The season is going to be cut from 162 games to 82. That's half the season about, right? Why should you get paid for a full season when you do not play a full season? Professional athletes, it's the only job where you could get paid for not going to work or not performing, okay? That's literally it. You get an injury, you get to just sit out and do absolutely nothing. And it's crazy to think that he's not willing to come back and play and give the country some hope over a couple $1 million when some of us are out here struggling every day. Just sad. So here is Stephen A. He just goes absolutely nuts. He goes right in on Blake Snell. Wastes no time.
What we're talking about is how smart was it to say that at a time like this? You remember the owners want them to come back to the negotiating table. Remember, there's a CBA in 2020 to deal with. I mean, what are you doing? You shut the hell up and let your Players Association speak. You shut the hell up. You signed a $50 million contract. Okay. You can't tell people at a time when 33 million people plus are on unemployment at this time. You can't sit up there, I got to get mine. I can't accept half of 7 million. Shut up. That's just dumb. Period. Bryce Harper said something. Bryce Harper agreed with him publicly. You just signed for $300 million plus. A 13-year guaranteed contract. Why are you opening your mouth? Shut up.
Because the owners are making multiples of that.
That's
over
what
those
your Players
years.
Association is for. Yeah. That's what your Players Association is for.
Stephen A. just dropped the mic essentially, so I'm gonna move on from that and not speak of it anymore. But yeah, Blake Snell just looks like a fool for those comments, in my opinion. All right, in other baseball news, the MLB will hold a 5-round draft. Yes, you heard that correctly. This was first reported last Friday. I didn't get a chance to touch on it on last week's episode. The decision comes a week after weeks of discussion between Major League Baseball and the MLBPA during the league's coronavirus shutdown. The union had previously agreed to the possibility of a draft as short as 5 rounds, but was pushing for a 10-round draft during talks. Listen, the Major League Baseball draft, guys, if you don't know, because it's unlike other sports, it is 40 rounds deep. So the fact that they are cutting it down to 5 is really, it's really tragic. It's really a shame for a lot of these players that won't get a chance now to get drafted. It's sad. Jeff Passan from ESPN, he breaks this down here on this clip. Take a listen.
Major League Baseball plans to shorten its draft from 40 rounds to 5, a move that a group of owners pushed to save money in the wake of the coronavirus. The league considered holding a 10-round draft, a move that had backing from front offices around the game. Instead, clubs will save a total of $29.6 million, less than $1 million per team. The decision drew sharp criticism from around the game, with concerns that as MLB considers cutting a quarter of minor league teams, it's sending a poor message to amateur players. It comes against the backdrop of the League and Players Association preparing for preliminary talks early next week on a return-to-play scenario.
So yeah, there you have it. That will take place. That MLB draft will be June 10th and June 11th. So we could look forward to that. But yeah, again, just really tough decision that they are going to be, cutting it from 40 to 5 just to save less than $1 million a team. I mean, wow. Okay, we're towards the end of the podcast here. Final segment is always on this date in sports, May 15th, 2016. The bad blood between the Toronto Blue Jays and Texas Rangers boiled over. It had to do with Joey Bats or Jose Bautista when he bat flipped after a home run in the American League Division Series. It culminated in, let's just say this.
Beltré dumped off a tough hop, and the throw is wide down the line, and there we got a 5 second. Batista picked on the wrong guy as Odor came right at him, and we got the benches emptying now. There's some pent-up emotion going on out of Globe Life Park. Well, Bautista got the worst of that exchange.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. Rougned Odor, smaller stature guy, second baseman, and he just came out of nowhere and clocked Joey Bats across the face. Vicious fight there. So it's safe to say those guys aren't going to be inviting each other to their birthday parties anytime soon. Okay, we've also got a weekend coming up filled with some sports for about the first time since quarantine. There's some stuff to look forward to. We have the German Bundesliga will become the first soccer league to return to action Saturday after a 61-day hiatus. The UFC will host its third event since its return with UFC Fight Night, Overeem versus Harris on Saturday evening. I believe there is a really cool story from ESPN on this guy Harris, who is making a comeback to the UFC after a devastating personal loss, where his stepdaughter was actually missing for a while and then found murdered. Just crazy story there. And then on Sunday at Darlington Raceway, NASCAR will return to the racetrack for the first time since the coronavirus forced it to pack up and abandon Atlanta Motor Speedway on March 13th. There are 4 opportunities to catch KBO action: 5:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Friday on ESPN2, 4 a.m. Eastern Saturday on ESPN, and 1 a.m. Eastern Sunday on ESPN. And then, of course, the final episodes of The Last Dance will air Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay. And then before I let you guys go, just remember, the greats like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, they will do whatever it takes to win, and their pettiness goes to new heights. As we heard at the beginning of the show when I played that clip from Jeremy Lin about how Kobe Bryant showed up to practice when he had a bum shoulder and wasn't practicing just to say bye to all the bum players or players that he thought were bums that were going to be getting traded. And that is just the funniest thing I have ever heard. That is so something that I would do, because I am the ultimate competitor and I hate to lose, and I would be the first one to say, get the hell off my team. So I just think that's awesome. Again, Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest. He came up on that list of top 10 from ESPN, ranking at number 9. I might have had him a little higher, but maybe some bias there. But yeah, without further ado, guys, enjoy your weekend, filled with a little bit of sports this time. So yeah, it's cool. And yeah, I might be jumping on with my friends to do some video chatting tomorrow, watch some of it. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Facebook, they just finally launched Messenger Rooms. This is not a PSA for Facebook. I don't really use Facebook much anymore, but it is a free alternative to Zoom, because I've been using Zoom with my friends, and they cap it at that 40-minute limit, and then you got to re-up and keep sending a link and rejoining, which is annoying. Facebook has virtual backgrounds, virtual effects, which is cool. I tested it out earlier today. You could have 50 people. It's totally free, no time limit. So I'm going to test that out tomorrow night with my friends. So hey, if you got nothing to do tonight and you want to have a virtual happy hour or whatever with your friends, you might want to consider using the Facebook Messenger chat rooms. It's free. You don't need a Facebook account. The person that starts it up just has to send out a link and be in the room, and then it could, you could set it to be that anyone can join it, or you can lock it to only people with a link. So I think it's pretty cool, and it will only get better. So with that being said, guys, enjoy your weekend. We're supposed to have some great weather today and tomorrow. I might get outside, shoot some hoops myself. But yeah, take care, have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next week. I got this in at just under 1 hour, which is perfect. So take care, everybody. Have a nice weekend. This is the Pody signing off.